Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We are we are here. We are here, my friend. All right. Just give me 1 sec, 'cause I've already buggered it up down.
It's going well, mate. I've just tweeted it out, so
Hey everyone, this is SharkCast Pod. My name is Sam Shinazi. Dan Nichols has joined from the Fins Up podcast. And I'm just trying to find a few buttons here on a screen, and then we'll get going for reels. That should be fine. No, I don't want that. I'll just write yo. Doesn't really matter. Sharks win 40 points to 20. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Give me 1 sec, Dan. Everyone watching, listening, if anyone's there. Battling with the Insta. Don't know why.
it's always the Insta, mate.
Bloody hell, what's going on?
I don't
Pauline
even
can work it out. Maybe we won't go instant, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. You know what?
Let's
just go here. We got people watching. That's all that matters. You know what? For podcast reasons, Dan, let's start again. Hey, welcome to SharkCast Pod. I got the radio voice on. I'm here with Dan Nichols, one half of the Fins Up production crew. We're going to be joined by another SharkCast regular soon, and it is a great day in Sharkland because the Sharks win 40 points to 20, their last regular season match of the year at Brookvale. 3 times in a row now at Brookie. We've done what they said we couldn't do. We've beaten Manly. Really good game. Sharks finished 4th. There's so much to talk about. We're going to play Melbourne in just under a week's time. There's a whole bunch of great news to get into. But Dan, why don't you start off by telling us your thoughts on the NRL? Did it exceed expectations? Did you think that's what would happen? Tell me things.
absolutely exceeded expectations. I went in today thinking good performance is paramount. A win would be great. Didn't really matter, but you kind of want to go into finals having won one of the last 3 games. So in that, I suppose I'm contradicting myself. I wanted a win. I wanted, look, there's no Turbo, no Manly is the general feeling, even at Brookvale. And if you go in the finals to play Melbourne after losing to Manly without Turbo, it don't feel too good. But, mate, if you'd offered me 40 points to 20, I would have taken that in a heartbeat. And I'm super excited about how they played today. The manner of the win was just as good as the win itself.
I love the fact that they went to Manly, sold out stadium. They had everything to play for. We really didn't have that much to play for.
Nothing.
And we absolutely dominated them for most of the game. And forward pack did really well. I thought the halves clicked a lot better. I thought if I had to hear one more time how much pressure Nicho Hynes was under, I was going to just explode. I don't know how he feels. But I think I think that's a little bit over the top. The whole Nicho Hynes. I know we've got another week of it coming up. I thought he did great, but generally a great team effort by the Sharks, and to go there to a place we don't like going to win by 20 points. I don't know if Manly just aren't that good, or we played a lot better than what we thought we would, but we really needed this win, Dan, just for the sole purpose of having confidence for next week, and now we've got it. Like, it's a huge deal.
Hey, big time. All we've heard all year is Cronulla can't win finals games. And until you win a finals game, you got to cop that. You go into a finals game having thrown it against a pretty ordinary team at home and a turbo-less Manly, you might as well not go to Melbourne. But right now, bet you those boys, I saw them singing or heard them singing loud and proud. They'll be excited getting on that plane when it comes time.
Yeah, and it's an exciting time, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the other grades? We'll get to NRLW, but give us a bit of a update on how the Jets went, what it means, and I'll fiddle around with a few things. But have a bit of a chat about Jets for me.
Please, the mighty Jets are through to a prelim on the back of a big win against Canberra Raiders at Leichhardt on Saturday afternoon. Really good performance all around. Pretty much everything you could, if you'd said, give me a perfect performance, this is it. We outscored a team who are known for scoring a lot of points. All our boys, Sam Stonestreet dropped back, and he could have got the boo-boo face. He could have got the lip but he went down and was one of the best on ground. Chris Vayela, after missing first grade, just in the past 2 weeks, went and was arguably the best centre on the field. Young Puru, which just tore it up. His game's improved out of sight in the last few weeks. Jaden Beryl, another one who could have gone down there with boo-boo face and just tore up. Sam Healy looked like $1 million. Podcast favourite, Billy Magulius, came on and played exceptionally well. Mate, they just lit Canberra up, and it sets them up with a prelim this Sunday evening, 5 p.m. at Leichhardt Oval again, against the Bears, who were the minor premiers, who we've beaten twice, I believe, and hold the Frank Hyde Shield, I believe it is. If I got that wrong, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful. There's just so many cups and shields in New South Wales Cup. Yeah. They're looking exceptionally good.
Excellent. And Flegg had a win, which was great, and they play Penrith next week. So a bunch of the grades are going so well. We know the NRLW have been flying high today. They were brought back to earth a little bit with a pretty dominant performance by the Roosters. You were down there, I believe, Dan. Tell me how the vibe was for NRLW.
Well, going in, the crowd was huge. Really, really big. The ET stand's almost sold out. It was full. The Southern stand had heaps of people. There were lines. Just people were happy. It was a party atmosphere. And Essa Biddle dropped the kickoff. They scored. And from then it was like, here we go. Look, it was a horror performance, 40-0. It's really put a dent in what was otherwise a flawless season. All I can say, mate, is I'm glad they got it out of their system, because if they turn up and cop that in a prelim or grand final, it would have done a huge disservice. Lot to work on, but you move on quickly.
Like, Roosters are really good at NRLW. We know this historically and even this year. It looked like the Sharks, it might have just been a down week, because defensively they were down, offensively they were down, they were losing the ruck. There actually weren't too many positives in that game from what I could gather. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's completely fair. It felt like Penrith, when we played them a couple of weeks back in the men's, we came in on a huge run against, the title favourites, and the Roosters were title favourites or are title favourites. And we went out there and we dropped the ball early. They scored and we never looked like we were in it. So, yeah, it was awful. We didn't have a line break. We had one offload. I think we missed like 80 tackles or something ridiculous. Like, it was historically bad. That's the worst I've ever seen them play by a long way. Hopefully the worst I ever see them play. It was just one of those days, mate. Absolutely nothing went right.
Yeah. I'm hoping they can just move on. The bounce back hopefully will be good. Only a few more weeks in regular season. But, we're not going to talk them down too much. They've done us so proud. Today was just hopefully a hiccup. It wasn't like they weren't trying. They were just outbeaten in every kind of facet, which sucks. But let's get back to NRLW. And Chris has said after the back chat penalty, I thought it was going to be a game. It was going to be thrown away. I assume Fitz got the word out there to pull their heads in. Now, that comes off the Britton Nickera obstruction penalty. And then Nico, they went to a replay, but you could hear it. And Nico was debating the penalty, and the referee said, "You're not the captain. Leave me alone." Then about 10 seconds later, you heard the whistle blow for being March 10. And I, too, thought, that's not a great attitude to have right now. But to Nico's credit and to the team's credit, they pulled it together. And they didn't get too dominated in that mindset of niggle and back chat and that kind of thing. They got on with it, played some really good footy. And I thought forwards were great. Halves did well. And again, it was our back five that really, really dominated. Some hiccups along the way again. But overall, a really strong performance by the Sharks. As a team, completed 74%. 9 line breaks to 3. Ran for 500 more meters. Only ended up missing 18 tackles. Now that's huge coming into finals time for me. That is probably the highlight. And just won most of the stats there as we say hello to Josh Bolling, the victorious Josh Bolling. We're just starting out the show, Josh, having a few Insta troubles. We've forgotten about the Insta, but we're going to move on, and we'll be talking a little bit about all the grades, but in particular NRL to start with. And what were your thoughts on the game, Josh? How did you see it going? What did you were you overly impressed? Were you surprised? Tell me things.
First of all, hello. Sorry I'm a bit late. Good to see you boys. Another good win. Yes. TikTok. I was surprised. We were ruthless, I thought, for the majority of the game, and then we shut the gates after the game was over. Clinical, ruthless, aggressive. Really didn't give Manly a sniff. I felt we were in charge of the game the entire time. And although I said during the week that I didn't really care about the performance or if we won or lost, it was a really dominating, encouraging kind of game that's how we're going to play. That's how we're going to have to play to win a finals game in Melbourne. So, yeah, very thoroughly happy and impressed with the team.
Now, speaking of Melbourne, Melbourne's biggest fan, and there's an asterisk next to that. When I say that, I should say Shark's biggest fan in Melbourne with another asterisk because we can't prove he actually is because all of our listeners in Melbourne are the biggest fans, but we'll tell Lush that for now he is. He says, thinking back to the start of the season, the draw was released. We were all a little worried about our last game of the regular season at Brookie, but that was incredible. That's a great point. We were so worried about it that we were talking about it even up to a month ago. Oh, my God, what's going to happen? What will it mean? In the end, it didn't mean much, with the exception of going into a finals game with great form. Lush, we're so happy that you and your crew get to see a home game now, a finals game down there. Like, that's just incredible. Those guys and girls go through so much, and they're going to have them in their backyard, and they're going to take us to a prelim. That's how far I'm thinking, boys. I thought, like the rest of the world, Britton Nickera was the best player out in the field. Talk.
He was the best player on the field. He was. We had the best two back rowers in the game today. That's Olakau'atu's a freak. I love him. I would have him at Cronulla all day, every day. But the way T. Wilton took him apart, sorry to bypass, going back to Britton Nickera, his past month has been ridiculous. Usually when I write an article on Zero Tackle about how good someone is, they go out of their way to be terrible and be nerdy. You don't know football. Nickera's gone to a different level. So you're welcome, boys. But, mate, best whole running back rower in the game, without doubt.
And he's also running for more meters. Like today, he ran for over 100 meters. Teague Wilton ran for over 150 meters. So they're almost in the front rower kind of vibe of how many meters they're making, but they're so creative. I mean, Britain's been on fire, as you said, Dan. And I think, slowly we see the media catching on to it. I saw the Fox Sports promos for the finals next week. It's all about Britain. It's not about anyone else. And that's awesome. Like, it gets me really pumped up. And he hates the spotlight. He hates the media. But at this point, it doesn't matter. If you're that good, you can't avoid it. Josh, what do you think of Teague Wilton on the other side?
I thought he was really good. I think he had a slower start to the year, and then he had the injury. But I think since he's come back and started again, I think he's been really strong. He gives us a different dimension to what Britain offers, because Teague will run crash balls and crash lines and bust through, whereas as Brit's a bit more finesse and will run that line that we talk about so often. His defense as well is as strong as Brit's. They've both been walls defensively, and they've been commanding their edges, which I think is why we've seen we're the second best defensive team to finish the regular season. They're a massive part of that. We've seen the development that Teague struggled a few years ago with that left edge with Moiser and the like. But I think he was really impressive today. And he's been quite creative. Like, we don't know him as that kind of guy, but he's been a nice outlet for us, and he's starting to get a bit more ball playing into his game and playing with his head up a little bit more, which I really like. And we're hitting. Those two guys are hitting form at the perfect time of the season because they've both had little dips, and now that they've come out of that, and they're raring to go for a big finals campaign.
Yeah, they certainly are. Did you guys see the press conference yet from the coach?
I haven't.
Dan? No.
No.
So nothing like earth-shattering, but some of the questions are, it feels like you guys aren't respected as a top 4 team, and, elaborate. And they kind of made him say a few things. And his point was, we haven't left the top 4 for most of the year. We've been there for 3 years now under him. And, it's up to us to gain that respect when it comes to finals time, which is now. But he made some great points about how us as not he didn't say this about the supporters, but as a supporter, I got out of what he was saying that we're in a pretty healthy place. We are legitimately one game away from a prelim. Now, it's a tough game. It might be the toughest of the round. Who knows? But it's there to be taken. We've done it before. We can do it again. And that's not the worst place to be in, comparatively, and just as far as our team goes. And I think they're ready to rock. Like, we'll get into it through the week on all the various shows, and Dan will too. But I said to, I think, Josh and a few of the guys, I said, this game is meaningless. It only just hit me at 1:55 p.m. This game means nothing except for the future next week. It literally means nothing, win, lose, or draw. For them to come out with that mindset and go, this means everything, let's knock them out, I was thoroughly impressed.
And I think the best part of that is we pretty much put the queue in the rack with the last 15 to 20 minutes. Like, we took Brayley off. Yeah. We took Jesse off. Hopefully he's okay, but I think maybe he could have probably played on if that was a finals game or if it was a game that mattered. Obviously we lost Tommy, but yeah, we like Atkinson came on and we kind of, you saw like the last few plays, we were just like, let's get through this, but there's no reason to play on anymore. So that was probably the most impressive part, that if we needed to keep going, we could have, but there was no point.
Yeah, and we saw a different sort of team. We saw Dan Atkinson on the bench, and he came on with immediate impact. And again, that impressed me, playing a different... It was more of a traditional Cronulla style under Fitzgibbon. It was less the power game, although that was still involved. I loved when Andrew Voss was giving us credit about ball in play, like the speed of the game, how he just sped it up for about 20 minutes, took over, and people within the club, people around the club, they're always telling me that if they can keep the ball in play, they're a chance of beating anyone. And that's proof today. Like, they just put their foot down, and their fitness is so good now that when they can stop the ball being dead, they're a chance. Give them the ball, let them play. They'll rack up the points. And defensively, guys, I thought we were really good today. There were a couple of really good defensive sets our own line, which led to us then getting the ball and scoring. So I thought, aside, as Josh said, from the last 10 minutes of taking the foot off, defensively they were pretty good. One try from a kick, another one that we could have done better on the right edge, but that was impressive going into the finals, guys. Defense, that's going to win you a title.
Well, the first two tries came off errors we made with the ball, gave them and conceded. And you're like, okay, that's the Cronulla out of the way. Referring to the comment below, I'll get back to that in a second. The Euro and Wilton, I want that over again. Olakuatu walked in. That was poor. But other than that, the last try at the end, you're like, it's always going to happen. Yeah. I was sitting with a whole lot of boys that had Leo Hopewadi in their multi. So when he didn't pass, call up, brilliant. My new favourite player. That was very satisfying. You're going to cop that at Manly. They're going to score one of those tries. I'm fine with that. Manly fullback's going to score. It doesn't matter who it is. So, really impressed defensive-wise. There's, against the Warriors, when Jack Williams dropped the ball, you just knew the Warriors were going to score. It was just fait accompli. They were going to score. Today, other than... See, Eero and Teagle, that was an awful tackle. Other than that, whatever. You take that. Manly are a good side. They're going to score some points. We never really looked trouble after we took the lead defensively, other than that one tackle. But, after last week, I think they would have got a defensive bollocking, excuse my French. And this week they came in, and it didn't look like Manly were going to score a weak try other than the one they did score. And, again, that was just a free play by free play.
So let's look at what Tim says. Well played, but we're super inconsistent, the most bipolar team in the NRL. Now, Tim's free to jump on and have a chat if he wants, but what do you think that means relating to today? As in, like, today was good, last week wasn't? Or because today they were pretty consistent, right?
I thought so. I thought they were pretty good across the board for, 60, 65 minutes of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't, the bipolar...
in general.
Yeah, I still... You can't be too inconsistent when you finish in the top four. I think that's my thing. I mean, to have statistically the second best defense, whether that's real or not, I'm just like, that's what the stats say. We are the second best defensive side. To finish in the top four, I still think you got to be pretty consistent throughout the year. You don't finish there by not.
Can I be devil's advocate here? The Dolphins game, we're 20-0 down in no time. Then we come back to lead and then we lose it late. the Warriors. We're leading 20-6. It's game over. If Royce Hunt doesn't stand in the line, Nico scores, we win by 50. We can't stop them. Once they got a roll on. Our inability to stop teams getting a roll on, momentum is what I'm looking for, relies on them dropping the ball. Didn't feel like that today, but over the past 6 to 8 weeks, there's been games where you're like, this isn't the Cronulla we saw in the first 20 minutes, whether that be good or bad. So definitely see where he's coming from. Overall, though, Josh is right. You finished top 4, you've had a level of consistency, but that Dolphins game, that's the one.
Yeah. I mean, we our colleague Cam Webb, it's his birthday today, by the way. So Cam Webb, when you hear or see this, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday, mate.
He pointed out that during the Spoon Bowl, Dan, he pointed out that we lost to both those teams. And I knew that, but I wasn't thinking that. And I was watching that game in horror and going, that's not great. It's kind of up there with the Dolphins thing.
That's the thing, though. We lost to the worst team in the history of rugby league, the Tigers. We got flogged. And yet we go out and pants Melbourne without Nico Hines. That's inconsistency.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Would you say that if you had the choice, would you rather lose to the bottom teams on an off night and get the big teams? Because I think in previous years we've done the opposite, where we've just spanked everyone below us.
Absolutely.
And not been able to lift. So I probably would take this, but I can see that definitely those are the little inconsistencies. That's why we didn't finish first, was because of those performances.
I take this year, Roosters, Broncos, Melbourne. I take that over not beating them but whipping every other team. Absolutely, Josh, because at least we're in a position to go do it again. Sorry, Dan, what were you going to say?
No, 100%. Like, we should be second. We dropped games in the last minute to terrible teams that we shouldn't have dropped games. But then early in the season, we went and beat Melbourne when we had no right to beat Melbourne. So, look, everything we've done this year is just so far ahead of where I had us in the preseason. I'm happy to eat any crow anyone wants to throw at me too. Please and thank you. It's been fantastic.
So, 57th minute, we saw Jack Williams with an error from a play the ball, and it was the set after we scored a try. I think it might have been the first or second tackle. And the whole world blew up, and we know why. And I made a point of writing down his stats at that time. At that time, so he's finished with more, but at that time of that error, he had 14 runs, 123 metres, 4 tackle busts, and 1 line break. Now, they did score from the next set, Manly. So he did put us in that position. But what do you guys think about my, but here's his stats. It's not like he's bumming around out there.
Josh?
I agree with you when you posted that, Sam. I said that if I get 120 meters and a try, 4 tackle bust, a line break, and didn't miss a tackle, I'll take an error for that. It's obviously like we don't want that. I also think just quietly that there was a hand in the ruck with that error, but we'd blown our challenge. But that's by the by. But I think I think sometimes it's easy to forget all the good things Jack does when he makes those poor errors because they stand out so much, and he usually does them at crucial times. But it's just so easy to forget sometimes that the meters and the defensive work he does for us, that that those bad things can sort of gloss over all the good stuff he does. So it's a tricky one because I think overall he's had a fantastic season that has been marred by a couple of poor errors.
Last year, Williams was our second best forward after Nicker, all right? Statistically bodied everyone else and was right up there with the elite in the competition. This year, he's been just as good, if not even better. The only problem is, though, every time he makes an error, we concede. So you go, okay, and last week I called him Baron Van Drops a lot, and I had all these jokes and stuff ready to try and make light of it. But before that, he was arguably our best forward all game. This week, he was exactly the same. There seems to be a thing. Cronulla need to come together, and they need to say, look, Jack, next time you drop the ball, we're going to stop them from scoring a try because it'll turn everything down. Because today we had players make errors, Cronulla forced errors, no one mentions them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
Jack Williams drops the ball 5 times every game, yet statistically you look and he's in the bottom 5%. Yet the carry-on in the Facebook groups, I know, is that he's got the worst hands in the NRL. No, but the last 2 weeks he's dropped balls and they've conceded tries. So you got to put it into context. It's not great, but as Josh said, yeah, some pretty good stats. He's got to cut that rubbish out, but name me a forward in the NRL that doesn't drop the ball.
So Danny says worried about Hazleton with a suspected MCL, something he can strap and still play though, needles and all. Do we have any more info on that at this time, boys? No info?
Suspected MCL.
That's floating around, the MCL thing.
Now you're both doctors. What does that mean as far as playing? Is Danny on the money? I'm not doubting that Danny's not on the money, but is that something that you believe as well?
Well, it's similar to what Ronaldo did, right? So I think if they push him, he could possibly play. Obviously, the best outcome would be we don't play him, we win, get the week off. I think he'd be fine for the prelim. I think they'll give him every chance, though. I think they will probably name him and they'll give him up to game day. It'll be touch
Tom
and go,
Hazleton,
though.
Is he a guy you want to send into a game like that? I'm not 100%. I don't know if he is.
Well, Kafusi just comes back in, right? So that's almost the like-for-like replacement. So
Good point.
It's not the end of the world. And I do worry about Tom getting dominated by the Melbourne ruck because he's not as big and as great as he is. I think he could be someone they'd target with a little bit slower. So I think would I rather him there? Yes. But it's not the end of the world, I think. Jesse's
he was great today. Like, he was terrific. Yeah. What do you think, Dan? You wouldn't risk it, right?
No, I wouldn't. I think ACL's lateral movement, and the general feeling is if you got an ACL, you can't do anything worse, and you can play on, but you can't move laterally. I can't remember which way it is, MCL, whether it's forward, back, or lateral, but if you got a genuine MCL tear, you're not playing football, is what I've been told by, I wouldn't say experts, but people that claim to know what they're doing. So it could just be me in doctor terms. But no, if he's got an MCL, he's sitting down for 2 weeks. You're putting him on ice and you're throwing Kafusi.
You hope you win.
Spot on, 100%.
Chad says, I've looked at the Storm supporters forum and the majority on there are giving us some respect. They have said we shouldn't be treated lightly, and I think that's fair. I don't think we should be treated lightly. And I think that from a storyline point of view, I think the media is going to go two ways. They're going to do the whole we haven't done anything in 3 years. They're going to push Nico right to the edge. But I also think they're going to mention the game from earlier in this year and the fact that we have a decent record against them in recent times. So there's not many that can do what we do down there, and the pressure's on us still. I don't want to sugarcoat it. We're massive underdogs, but I like that. And
that's better, don't you think?
I would hate to be favourites going down there. So I think it's a healthy place to be. But yeah, that's good, Chad, that they're talking us up a little bit. We do need some respect out there. I think respect's the key that we need for this team. Nathan says, I'll just chuck this up. Nathan says we needed to win today after last week's debacle. The boys need to come out and gain some confidence for the finals. And that was exactly my thoughts, Nathan, too. I absolutely agree with that. The closer it got to game time, the more it dawned on me how important it was. You don't want to go to Melbourne 2-0, so 0-2, I should say. Tell me, Dan, we know about your man crush on Kale Iro. Tell me how you think he went today. Tell me what he did. Tell me what you liked.
He set a new tackle break record. Every time the bloke touches the ball, he puts 4 players on their backside. And he made a line break standing still and just throwing defenders out of the way. Look, that missed tackle will haunt him. It was pretty bad. Haven't seen that for a couple of weeks, probably since the Parramatta game, to be honest. Although last week, I don't think he played particularly well. It's probably his worst game overall. And he still ran for 1 million metres. So his confidence would have been down. So it was real good to get there. His partnership with Stamp Stone Street has been beautiful. So for Ronaldo to come in and that to stay there was really, really exciting. Our centres right now, I'm sure someone will be like, oh, what about? You probably wouldn't swap them for any combo in the game right now, considering the game we play. There's better centres. Herbie Farnworth's a better centre. I'm happy to admit that. But in terms of how we play, there's no one better for it than Rami and Anil.
Completely agree. I think you're right. I think we build the system around the players we have, but the way we play, like we're definitely a team that uses our backs to get yardage. There aren't many better back fives. Like we've got Will, who's as safe as a house. Obviously, probably need more from. We're going to need more from him, but like the others, like Sione, had a nice bounce back game after a poor defensive display last week. Strong again, bouncing around. Energizer Bunny, Ronaldo bounced back with 2 tries. Jesse probably a little quieter. I thought he was still really strong though. Another try assist. And Iro, I thought Iro was really good actually. I thought there was a couple of defensive decisions he made that were really strong. That in particular, I think there's one where someone got on the outside of him, like showed them the space, and then tracked them down and threw him over the sideline. That was really nice. And Ronaldo, Garrick, and Ronaldo held his line too. He held on his wing, which was perfect. And then he came in when he knew that Iro had him. Then he comes in and helps him drag over. And like Dan said, I thought it was really impressive that Ronnie, as good as he is, slipped back in seamlessly in that position with that positional change, and Iro set him up. And Iro's probably unlucky not to have a try, I think, after the end of the game. So those like you said, I think the second row partnership and the center partnership are as good as any in the top 8, I believe.
But the thing I love about Iro the most is defensively how he does pick out that guy, and just 9 times out of 10 he'll get there and he'll just dominate that play to the fact where they probably lose 3 or 4 meters from the contact. And I don't know if it's because he's a bit younger, he's a bit quicker than most of the team, but it just gives an energy that we haven't had for a long time. Am I making this up? Was Talakai in the centres at the end and he got ran around for a try? Yeah. So, and I'm not knocking Sifra, I love the bloke, but that's just even more evidence that
it's over.
Should we be missing a centre next week and we're not sure what's happening with his injury or his possible judiciary issue, as in Ramian? I don't think we can go back to that. I just think it's too costly. Like, one try is costly enough, right? So, But the flip side, the positive, is the way that Iro just picks out a guy, and as I said, he'll usually get him and dominate him, and then it pushes the whole defense back. The whole attacking team back. That's my favorite thing about him. I think he's got a way to go, Dan. I know you're his number 1 fan, but having met him during the week, like, just a real impressive dude. For a young guy, just, calm and cool, head on right. And I think the upside in him hopefully will be just massive. I really do.
Oh, his ceiling is gigantic. Like, his one negative in New South Wales Cup was that he couldn't tackle. He'd have 15 tackle breaks and 6 missed tackles. And you're like, okay, that looks good on paper, but you're missing 6 tackles.
So what happened?
It was more the fact that he was defending inside Newtown players. So he wasn't trusting them. They were getting around him. Whereas now he's just, like, inside and out. And I'm not bagging him. Plus, I think stepping up, he's like, this is my chance. I've been waiting, et cetera, et cetera. But, I mean, going back to that Newcastle game just quickly before going off on a tangent, Newcastle should have won that game. They busted Talakai. They should have scored under sticks. They messed it up. That's the difference. If Iro gets beaten, he's quick enough to chase him down, which is what we saw from Stone Street a bit. Obviously, last week, that didn't happen. They just were 10 his Lesniak was just on one. You can't stop him in that mood.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I know Penasini got him early, but Iro got that one back late. Last week was probably the only one-on-one battle he's probably lost all season, and even that wasn't that bad. They scored a lot of points while he was in the sin bin, which works well for agendas, but sucks for the team. It's completely changed that left-hand side. Like, Josh made a joke before about how many tackles Teague missed. Yeah, because he had Talakai and Matt Moylan. I mean, you put the best defender. I'm not bagging them. They just one can't move sideways and one just can't flat chat tackle. So you get Iro and Trindle in there, and suddenly Teague Wilton's a brilliant defender. It didn't happen overnight. That combo is fantastic. I was a little bit shaky taking Stone Street out, and I do believe he's going to get the spot in round 1 and never give it up for the next 20 years. But Ronaldo looked great today. Early in the season, he wasn't trusting Iro. Now he's pulled back and he's gone, oh, wait, this kid can tackle. It's a breath fresh.
Yeah, the whole rushing in thing has improved dramatically in the past few games they've played together. So obviously A, the coach is up them, but also B, they're learning, and he's learning to trust him. So that's obviously crucial. Tony,
just
ahead,
one more
Josh.
thing, just on Iro. He's played 20 games this year. I'd say he's lost 3 battles defensively in the year. So I think, like you said, like those ones mentioned, the one tackle he missed today was the one on Olakau'atu, which is again is look, you'd rather make that, but it's
century, is it?
Yeah, but out of the one, like to miss one tackle, look, it happens. And I also just think, I don't know about you guys, do you think that he's gained a yard of pace as the season's gone on? I feel like he's gotten stronger and quicker from his first game this year to now. I think he looks incredible, like different, like fitness wise. I think he's the same, but I just think he looks a little quicker and sharper and stronger. I don't know if maybe that's just from getting the experience.
Yeah, I think it is, and yeah, just all of that, and what I got from talking to him for 5 minutes is that he's a very serious young dude about football. Like, he takes it really seriously, and they're the guys you want in your team. And if he's getting quicker, if he's getting better at defense, I mean, they're just win-wins. Tony says, pleasantly surprised with the result. I love his last point. Got to throw the kitchen sink at Melbourne. Now, I'm all in on this, boys. I think that no matter what you do everything in this game. And then you have 2 weeks, which is a long time. You have 2 weeks to worry about who's fit, who's not fit, who's suspended, who's not suspended, etc., etc. I think that we saw in 2016 that they kind of went for it. They had to. And this is probably even more dramatic because it's a better team and a harder place to win. And I just think, name your right lineup, get it as perfect as you can, and time the week as well as you can. If they need to train light, train light. If they need to train heavy, whatever you think it is.
Yeah.
And whatever day you want to get down there, like, do it perfectly. And then you give yourself every chance. And then I would just be drilling into them when you're out there. Just, you cannot stop. It's the Melbourne Storm. And more importantly, you have a shot at going to a prelim. Now, Josh, I know you sent around the finals draw.
Yep.
Now, I'm a bit dimmer when it comes to this sort of stuff, and I was following arrows and lines. Let's suggest that we're going to win this week.
Yep.
What are the scenarios in the prelim?
So whoever wins out of Melbourne and Cronulla goes to the prelim. So then that would mean that whoever... so the Dogs and Manly will play. Mm-hmm. Then the winner of that will verse the loser of Penrith and the Roosters. And so let's say Manly win, and let's say the Roosters lose. Yep. Manly versus the Roosters in week 2, and we will verse the winner of that to go to
in a prelim, final. We could play the Roosters or Manly.
So Bulldogs, Roosters, Manly, Penrith are the 4 options if we win.
Okay. And if
you would realistically think it's Manly and probably Manly and Roosters if you're going favourites. It'll be one of those 2.
Ooh, the Doggies fans aren't going to like you, mate.
I'm just going on favourite. Like, I hope the Doggies win. I want Manly out of this comp as quick as possible.
We're not going to do a general NRL podcast, but I have to say the Dogs were missing a lot of guys yesterday, yes. and they got some guys coming back. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying they're going to go win, but I know they're better than what they showed yesterday. But yeah, the finals draw is fascinating, and it's a bit confusing when you start following the arrows, but I want to win. And to Tony's point, I really want to just see them. And we've seen them do it down there before in years gone by. There was it the game where Dugan scored in a weird scoreline, and it was a small scoreline.
Not Coruscant, Seguiaro.
Yeah. There's been some famous victories down there, and they've all been gritty. I mean, this year's one was amazing. I'm not disputing that. But we just got to go for it. Like, I would almost treat this, and I know it's a stupid thing to say, but I would almost treat it like a grand final, because you get the monkey off your back as far as the press goes. The fans believe. You go to a prelim, and then, when you get to prelim, it's 50-50. You got 1 foot in the grand final. 1 foot out, but 1 foot in.
This is absolutely a grand final. I'm willing to go on record, and you can quote me. Hopefully, it happens. If we don't beat Melbourne, we can't make the grand final, because you got to go through Penrith, and Penrith have got the wood on us. The only way we get Penrith is beat them on grand final day if they have an off night. If we go through Melbourne and we host a prelim, you're playing a busted Roosters, a Manly team we've beaten, or a Bulldogs team that's going to be bouncing around, and we beat them early in the season. If we lose to Melbourne, everyone who's got the internet is going to say, well, yeah, so though, Dan, how's your finals? You're going out in straight sets. Players believe that. A couple of years ago when we lost to the Cowboys, should have won that game, right? Everyone knows it. We just bug it up. Against South, not for 1 second did I feel like we'd win that game still broken, and they got us. That's exactly the same again this year. We get through Melbourne, who knows? If we don't, okay, maybe we go back and beat the Cowboys or, God, can't lose the Cowboys, or Newcastle. But going to that prelim, okay, Penrith put 60 on us, whatever. It's all grand finals this weekend.
So that's the other scenario. If we lose, then we play either Newcastle or North Queensland.
Correct.
Both out of town teams.
And then we win that and we play Penrith.
Or the Roosters.
Yes. Or the Roosters.
Or the Roosters.
But more than likely, yeah. I do think that the Cowboys Knights is the better end of the draw as opposed to the Dogs or the Manly, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
I do think that's the better way.
They'll fancy their chances of beating us, though, especially the Cowboys.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a nice little synergy, doesn't it?
It does.
Paul says, I thought the influence of Hazelton and Williams off the bench was similar to when we went 9-1. Interesting to note, there was no Hamlin Welly today.
He played all right for Newtown.
He played for Newtown, did he?
Played really well. He played some big minutes, which is really good. Scored a try. Don't get me wrong. It was a try for a great hit. I think it was Maguire's. But he did everything right. He made big meters. He led early. And he defended like a beast. So it was really probably the best I've seen him since the last time he played for Newtown, if I'm being legit.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've got Tuku. Like, there's a bunch of forwards there. That's why I wouldn't be rushing Tommy in unless he was okay. If he's okay, then he provides something that no one else can do. But if he's not, those big guys, when they're on one leg, that's never a good thing. Let's get to the halves. We'll start with Trindle because it's the easier thing to talk about, even though it's all pretty glossy for Nico, so don't stress about that. But what did you guys think of Trindle today? Josh, what did you think of Trindle?
Yeah, outstanding again, I thought. I still think he's leading the team around, regardless of if he's wearing the 6 or 7, and it has to stay that way. But I mean, both of Nico and Trindle nearly kicked 40-20s, but Trindle's kicking game, excellent. 2 try assists, 4 line break assists in one game is absolutely ridiculous. His running meters, that's not his go. He's not the runner. That's Nico. 8 out of 10 tackles, and I thought controlled the game. I'm really happy with how he's going at the moment.
What about you, Dan?
Trindle's been our dominant half for all the good we've seen. It's been fantastic. I did think Nico overplayed his hand a little bit early against the Warriors last week and did again. Then Trindle sort of took over and his kicking game. He's got a bigger boot than Nico. That's not a crack. He can kick the hoof out of the ball. So that's it. His ability just to run the line, just hit a runner and just put him over has been fantastic all season long. Without blowing my own, I think Trindle probably should get Player of the Year, but won't because of very obvious reasons. But if you were to tell me right now that he's going to win our best Player of the Year, no arguments here.
16 try assists this year, from what I've got, and 10 tries in 16 games. And then, 90 odd points worth of kicks too. Like, bloody good season, really.
Not
bad for a player half the Facebook groups want dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that is happening is the media are really catching on to him, particularly former players and good former players too. They're really seeing what other people have seen in him over the years, and I think that's a positive. Nico Hines today I thought was really good. I thought that when he ran out, I was a little bit worried for him, given that the pre-game coverage was just so intense about him, but I thought he did what he had to do. I thought he was, as you said, Dan, better than last week. And there wasn't much I was overly critical about at all in this game, which is great. I loved seeing him smile. He smiled after he got that first goal from the sideline, which is a beauty. Haven't seen the guy smile on the field for a long time. I'm not saying he has to. I mean, smiling players usually don't win comps necessarily, but it's good to see him openly emote to the world that thinks he has the world on his shoulders when really he's probably just a dude who loves to surf and is the number 7 and can play better from time to time. You know what I mean? Like the amount of, I don't know about you, Dan, but the amount of feedback we get about Nico and his mental state from people who don't know him. And I'm not being critical about listeners because I love our listeners, but people just assume that this guy is walking around unhappy. And I don't know him, so maybe he is, but I'm also not going to assume he is. And I think he's going okay. I think he's going to have to keep climbing up. I think for us to win this game, he's going to have probably an 8 out of 10 game, like most of the players. But I thought it was exactly what was needed, and I thought it was a great coaching ploy by playing your strongest team. I wasn't, as Josh knows, I wasn't all for it, but it all worked out okay.
Yeah, look, Nico's the most maligned player in the game. He can kick 15 in a row, and he misses the kick after the bell against the Dolphins, and people are calling for his head. I mean, come on. But it goes with the territory of being $1 million halfback.
Yes.
He's a former Dally M winner. He's on the papers. You type Cronulla Sharks, it's Nico Hines, right? It's him, then the rest. That's the way the club's set up, good, bad, or indifferent, and I'm not saying it's bad. So I think Nico's very obviously – he's the face of the league, if you ask me, because Latrell and all that. Nico's the man. But he's a bloke who has been exceptional until the brightest lights have been on when he's called away. And – again, as $1 million halfback, you have to stand up and you have to cop that. You can't hide away because people are going to hound you into retirement. You got to stand up, you got to kick from the sideline, you got to turn around, you got to smile. That's perfect. I don't want to hear him in the media saying, I can do it. No. If someone puts a microphone in front, the forwards are going to do their work and I'm just going to work off the back of that. Cliche. Put all the pressure back on the forwards this weekend. Nico go out there and play. He was spectacular today. But I bet you London to bricks, there'll be some guy that goes, oh, he didn't play well because he didn't have 4 try assists or he didn't run for 200 metres. Halfbacks don't need to be the best player on the game. How many times have we watched Nathan Cleary tear teams to shreds just by pinning them, just kicking them? They make a mistake, he throws it right and they score in the corner. And everyone goes, oh, Lua got the try assist. Yeah, but it was all Cleary up to that stage. That's what Nico Hines did today. To beat Melbourne, he's going to need that game where he does get the 4 try assists. If he doesn't, everyone's going to call for his head again. It's going to go around in circles. The only way he can stop that talk, Sam, win a finals game. It is what it is.
So today, I kind of thought it was different, but today he still kicked half as much as his buddy Braden. So Trindle, 10 kicks, 300 metres. Nico, 5 kicks for 185 metres. So maybe I was just noting when he kicked and then not so much the other fella. But as far as possessions go, pretty even. Nico had 7 more possessions, and that can mean anything from just like holding the ball to doing magical things with it. And I just thought the involvement of Nico was probably where it needed to be today. It was a step up from last week in quality, in choices, and if he can keep improving on that, I think it's happy days. And you're right, Dan. He needs to win a game, but they all need to win a game. I guess not the unfortunate thing, but I guess the thing is, against Melbourne, it may come down to a clutch moment. And if they go to him, they might not. They might go to Trindle, they might go to Atkinson. But if they go to him, he's going to have to nail it. And that's a lot of pressure for someone like me to put on someone like him. But it's just kind of how it's got to be, right?
It's the role. Do you guys remember against the Bulldogs, Nico Hines missed that field goal, right? Matt Burton missed 3.
Yeah.
But because the Dogs got Burton a position to get a 4th, he's the clutch match winner, and Nico Hines is the choking bum. He missed 1/3 of the field goals that Burton. Yeah. It's all. Yeah, look, he can go down there and be the best player on the field, and we can still get walloped. It's got to be a team thing, but it's going to be Nico, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent. Nico is going to cop every criticism or positive. Just goes with being a halfback. He goes down there and kicks a winning field goal. I guarantee you people forget all the other rubbish.
I'm kind of just had a thought where, I mean, I think about this a lot, especially at times like this. Like, I want to win the comp. I just had a thought where how interesting would it be is if he played 7.5. Say today, what 7.5 out of 10? You reckon, Nico?
Yep.
Say he did that for the next 3 games. So we win the next week against Melbourne, win the prelim, win the grand final, and he's 7.5 out of 10. So he's pretty good. But, Will Kennedy is the Clive Churchill. And the guy that wins it next week is Kale Iro on an intercept pass. And the prelim is a Trindle masterclass. That would be just as amazing because then everyone would be like, well, maybe he doesn't have to be the guy. And okay, maybe he's on a lot of money. But then that pressure would be off his back because they would have won 3 finals games. They would have won a grand final without him having to be the clutch guy. Now, we need him to be the clutch guy, but I'm just imagining a world where it doesn't have to happen this year. Imagine the confidence he'd have next year if Fanua Blake's coming to town. I'm just rambling, but that's just a little thought that flashed into my very perverted brain that I have.
You're right, mate. His worst thing he did a couple of years ago was drag Cronulla to second and win a Dally M when that team would have otherwise finished 6th to 7th. Now everyone expects it every week, which is hugely unfair.
Yeah. Nathan said, thinking of the end of season awards, Nicholas surely has to be the part of the best second row conversation. He's been sensational. I think so. I mean, you guys are, even though I do it for a living, you guys are more on top of what's happening with every player week in, week out from this point of view. Like, who is he? He'd be top 2, right?
Well, last year he was the best second row in the comp and didn't win it. And I think he's had slower periods of the year. I think his last 6 weeks have been off the chart. So I don't know if that'll be enough to get it for him. He was more consistent last year, I think, across the season, and he didn't get it. So I think it might be tough for him. But still on his day, I think he's, if not the best, he's in the top 2 conversation in the comp.
I know everyone bangs on a lot about Angus Crichton, and he's had a really, really good year. I'm not denying that, especially from where he came from. So he might be up there on the podium with him. I'm sure there's a plethora of good second rowers, but yeah, I wouldn't be changing this guy for anyone. I think he's he's more than consistent enough. Like, I know he's in peak form, but even on a bad day, he's still pretty good. Go ahead, Dan.
Crichton and Katoa are going to win the second rowers of the year.
Yeah.
But I was spewing last year that Nickera didn't win. I thought it was for Fafita, Nickera, and then the rest. I think they gave it to Ola Kawatu or Kolomatangi, one of the big boys. But yeah, I think Nickera is probably the 3rd best this year, and I can hear an argument for second. Kickout will probably win it just based on his kickout. But if he's not top 4, then I'm legit not here. And thanks so much, NS. The hair is looking rad.
Yeah, and not that I have to explain myself to NS, but I went to a colleague's wedding on the weekend, and I had to have a little trim. So that's what happened.
Spruced up, Sam.
Yeah, I know. Triple S.
So that's the point of contention. That's the difference in what you can see. And obviously, I'm going to take that down right away. And what else have we got here? Lots of people writing into us. Tim says, I feel like the Melbourne game needs to be won through the middle. Need our forward pack running hard, quick play the balls. Yep, absolutely agree with all that, Tim. I thought today was interesting with the way that both teams started so crazy with their packs. And, I think Royce had the first hit up and went back about 3 meters, and I was like, yeah, this could be interesting. But we gave as good as we got, and Tim's 100% right. Like, we're going to have to, I think every part of our game is going to have to be, as we sometimes refer to, 2016 grand final like. Like, you're going to have to complete it 87%. Your forwards are going to have to dominate. You're going to have to win the ruck, and I think we can do it. I've seen enough this year in the big games where we can do it. And we saw it again today. It took a little while, I thought, but we got there.
Yeah, we do have to win it through the middle because Jerome Hughes is in pretty good form at the moment.
Oh,
you want to give that guy 1 centimetre.
So
I think there's one advantage Cronulla have, and that's in the centres. I think if we win that battle, we're right in it. And I like our forward pack because if it comes down to superstar versus superstar, Melbourne have got about 8 of them, which sucks.
I think I don't want to preview the finals game too much, but I think forward pack we have the better players. I think we have a better forward pack overall. I just think they have damaging moments, like with obviously your Nelsons and Josh King goes good. I think that overall, if we have a dominant forward display, we can control the game. And I also think we absolutely carve them to pieces on the edges. I think that's where we do win the game. I know finals games are defense and winning the forward battle and all that, but we've got the talent and the athleticism on the edge that I don't think they have. I think Nick Meaney should be given nightmares by Iro. I think that's where we've got to go big time. Like those sort of things. I think our wingers are on par. They're different type of wingers to the Melbourne ones. So I think that's where that right edge for Melbourne as well, I'd be targeting heavily. But like they've obviously got us in the spine, so that's where it kind of balances out, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Brayley does. I mean, he had a mega game last time, which helped so much. We can't let them win any kind of battle. Like it's if their number 9 wins the battle, it's like that's probably 12 points down. You're like, we're 12 points behind. Like they're going to have to be up and get everything. And I'm really looking forward to it, boys. Like I'm sort of talking myself into the fact that, I mean, I do think we're a realistic shot, but I actually, it's only Sunday night and I'm getting pretty pumped. And they're great. They're great matchups, like Brayley versus I love their fella. He's amazing. Like if I could get him, I probably would. But I think Pappenhausen might be back. The other little fella won't be there.
He's gone, I think.
The quick little zippy guy, what's his name? Yeah. Thank God he won't be there.
That's a real shame.
But I think Pappy will be back. So him versus Kennedy, like there's a lot of great lineups. And I think, I mean, what have they got? They got Munster and Hughes.
Not bad.
Trindle and Hines. I understand they win the battle on paper, and they're the guys, you'd swap. Like you'd swap them because they're absolutely elite. But our guys are in really good form, and it's going to be a massive challenge. But I'm looking forward. Yeah, I'm looking forward to those matchups. I was just thinking about Warbrick, Josh. Like he's not without skill, that fella. Like he's a hard running dude.
But he can be a defensive liability. He doesn't read defense amazingly. His contact's not great for such a big fella. It's with ball in hand, he's an absolute animal. So it's you give and take. Like no player is perfect. They're going to have deficiencies, pros and cons. But he's someone I'd be trying to target on an edge. And Corey, Xavier Coates, is just coming back from injury, so he'll be short of a gallop. He's another one that likes to jam in. He's someone I think you could target, but again, in the air, athletically outstanding. So it's going to be. I think it's a game of the. It's definitely the game of the week 1 finals. It could be like if both teams play their potential, it could be the game of the year. It's set up for an absolute blockbuster. I think the whole week actually is all the finals games. It's a spectacular week 1.
Now we saw Big Tuku score a try down there, didn't we? Am I correct in saying that during the year? Yeah.
Fusi as well, didn't he?
Yeah. And we definitely won the game through the middle. Is Tuku some sort of chance of sneaking a position?
No chance.
No.
Kafusi comes in. Yep. I don't disagree with what Paul said. I reckon Huge has been tremendous and probably should have played 6 or 8 games more. But if you're going down to Melbourne and you can only pick one, you're picking Hamlin early.
Okay.
But does he play? He plays if you don't pick Atkinson, but he's gonna pick Atkinson.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to pick Atkinson. Today works so well, and I think you need it. Look, if worse comes to worse, Nico does. You put Atkinson on. I'm not saying they should do that, like at all. Because if you pick Nico, you play Nico. But Atkinson can cover. Like if someone goes down the centers, you got to put Atkinson there. If you asked him to play prop, he would do it. He's a maniac. And I was critical of him, and I want to take it back. I'm happy to feast on that crow. He's been great. I am so big on Huge, but you can't have a bloke who's averaging 7 or 8 minutes in NRL in Melbourne to get into a prelim. Plus, I want him running out and killing people for Newtown, full disclosure. But yeah, look, I don't think either will let you down, but I think you got to go Hamlin Nueli. I think they'll stick with Kafusi straight swap there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel says, next year and Cade Dykes, what do we do with him? And it's a great question and it's a good problem to have. I need more time with this one, Daniel, but I'm rehabbing him and getting him ready for first grade. And then maybe he's in a shootout in a trial match for someone and then see how it goes. I'm not rushing this kid back given all the injuries. My number one query with Cade Dykes is where is his best position? And unlike Dan Nichols, I don't think his best position is fullback. So I'm not putting him in a shootout with him. And then the problem I have is I think he's a better half, but we've got too many halves. So I don't know, man. And I'm not being dramatic and going, there's no room for him. I just don't know where he goes. Is he a super sub? I don't know. Josh, what are your thoughts before we get to Dan?
I know Dan's not going to be happy with me with what I had to say here. Like, and it may be controversial among Sharks fans, but I'm yet to be excited by Cade Dykes. I know I definitely admit that I haven't watched a ton of him in Newtown. Just from what I've seen, I know he's young, all that aside. He's not better than anyone that's in any position he can play at the moment. And I think he needs to get through a year cup. I think he needs to get fit, and I think he needs to play a season. And then we can then see what he has, see where if we want to chuck him around in a couple of different positions, then we look to 2026, I think. But at the moment, he's just there's no spot for him. There's 3 better halves than him, and there's a better fullback than him.
I think that, having said that, Josh, having heard you say that, I think that get him ready to go, heavily trials, as much time as he can, cup to start with, let him get his form back, and then it'll become almost like, not necessarily next man up, because there might be an Atkinson there, or I don't know what's going to happen next year, but have him ready, because we've seen in first grade he can do it. He's played a couple of games and he's been more than fine. But I think he needs to get the juice in his legs and the touches back. And then it becomes almost like with Sam Stone Street. He comes in when we need him and we know he's there in the future. Same kind of with Atkinson, I guess, to a lesser degree. But I think Cade becomes the kind of next man up in a few of the positions. Dan, you can go for it. You got a time limit of 23 minutes.
Perfect. What we need to do with Cade Dykes is we need to pray that this kid can get fit because he's a bona fide freak. A couple of years ago, when the Jets walked the New South Wales Cup minor premiership, was on the back of him playing 5'8", where he won 5'8" of the year. He got injured in the prelim. We didn't look like a tenth of the side. He is a bigger body than Will Kennedy. I think I'm going to get slammed for this, but I don't care. I think his ceiling's heaps higher than Will Kennedy. Dykes is someone I would be investing in. If he suffers another long-term injury, though, you have to take a serious look at him, which I hate saying. So I'm so high on this kid. I had him as our starting 5'8" in the preseason, full disclosure. Thought he and Nico are just going to tear through teams. Size, strength, power, kicking game, it's all there. Trindle's absolutely flown ahead now, and it's going to take a lot to that. Liam Ison is going to be something special, but the kid's very, very small. Cade Dykes is like 10 kilos heavier, I think. Now, not saying Ison can't get there, but right now, if Kennedy was to go down and you offered me a fully fit Dykes versus Ison, it's Dykes in a heartbeat. He got injured scoring a match-winning try, which was a hat-trick in his last game. I don't remember the injury happening. It must have been in the celebration or something before, and he got through the end. Every time we ran out for Newtown, we looked like we were going to tear teams to shreds. He's not better than anyone. Josh is right. He's not better than anyone in any of the positions he can play, but he's 100% the guy that, Kennedy's injured, Dykes is in, then Kennedy's in himself because he thinks, oh, crap, Dykes is going to take my spot. If I'm Sione Katoa, I'm looking over my shoulder at Sam Stone Street, who was so good for the Jets after flying. I have a feeling it's going to be the same situation if Dykes can get fit. Unfortunately, it's a huge if. That's the only problem I see with Dykes at the moment.
I think if he comes back nice and shiny in March, then I also have him ahead of Ison just because of age, experience alone. But what I saw of Ison and what I've seen is really cool. I think he's
a genius, mate. He's just 19.
There, yeah.
He can still play flag. Dykes
Exactly.
he can play 6 though, because as much as I love Rajab, you want Cronulla contractor players playing as much for Newtown. If he's 6 and Puru or Pollard are 7, it's pretty good.
Who do you think's the better player, Dan, out of Eason in terms of, let's say they're the same age, experience-wise? Who's the better long-term prospect?
I like Ison. I think this kid's going to be a freak. I love the game he plays. Right now, though, Dykes convincingly.
Yeah. It's a great question. Thank you to the viewer, listener, for bringing it up. I like this from Mitch. He said, hoodoos don't exist according to Fitz. And I think it's really valid. It's really valid that, and even if you take away the hoodoo and want to say just things in the most recent past where we can't be a top 8 team, or we can't, basically when you say you can't, Fitzy gets really angry and says, no, yeah, we can. So I think it's so important for a coach to see ahead and see things that other people can't see. And, we'll go, we can't win at Brookvale. Well, hang on a second. We've just won 3 in a row. Like, it's awesome. And thanks to Mitch for bringing that up. Now, what about this from our friend Sean? Hey, Sean, hope you're doing well. Best use of interchange I've seen all year. What do you think about that? With Dan Atkinson coming on, I think he's what Sean might be referring to. He came on for who? What happened? Someone...
That was for Hazleton when he got injured.
Okay. So he came on as a middle, scored in the first minute of being on the field.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, right? Like that's his role now. Is what we think his role is going to be is if you're in the 14 to 17 jumper, then you're going to be Mr. Fix-It. Hey, the tallest guy on the field's gone off. You're going to have to go on and play his role. And then, boom, got to try. And that pace really, as I think Andrew Voss said, the pace really, like no one else could really do that. So I liked it. I'm interested in what happens this week, boys, with 4 forwards versus 3. I'm going again. I'm rolling the dice again with this type of interchange.
I think Sean's spot on here, but more so with Toby Rudolph, because he usually comes on with about 15 minutes to go. Today we conceded a try. He threw Toby on with 20 to go, and Toby changed the momentum. So I think Fitz, it was great in use interchange more with Toby than Dan, who obviously scored with his first touch. So it's easy to know that one. I just think I think Fitz is starting to react a bit more, because early in the year, my main criticism was this is his game plan and it's not changing. Even if Toby Rudolph's dying on the field, he's put to 27 minutes in my black book. He's playing 27 minutes. Today he reacted. He put Tom on. Hey, Catherine. And then later, when Tom came off, he shifted Talakai and then he gave Brayley a break. I think it's his best use of the bench today. Great shout.
I'm just looking at the minutes. I'm just looking at the minutes. Toby 48, Blake 67, McInnes 51, Atkinson 26, Jack Williams 41, Royce 33, Tom Hazleton 28, obviously injured, and Talakai 35. Those are much more balanced minutes than having a 10-minute and Toby playing 55. Or I know Kafusi can obviously play longer than Royce, but that's a much more balanced time frame for me. That we and then when, like you said, when Fitz being more reactive this year, I'm pretty sure he hooked Jack after he made the error and he brought McInnes back on. So it's like those are the reactions that you want to see, that if it's not good enough, you're getting hooked. And it's like you get rewarded with the better you play, the more minutes you'll get.
Is that what happened after that try they conceded?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%, but I remember thinking after that error, then we conceded, and then I'm pretty sure McInnes was back on after that. But don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure.
No, it's a good shout. I think he's spot on there.
I like what Paul says here, and I was thinking about it as well. The 4:00 afternoon game during the day, and we saw how he played during the day today on a pretty dry track. I mean, maybe Melbourne think the same. I don't know, but we can only base it on our own team, and we like to play an attacking style of football. I mean, the days of playing flano prison ball are over. I mean, we want to adapt some of that, but our strength is in scoring lots of points. And I think you got the giggles there, Dan. You haven't heard the prison ball?
I love the prison ball's good.
Yeah. That's an RCB term. But it's a great shout from Paul. If we attack well, if we score 24 points, I mean, it's going to go a long way to winning this game, and you do it on the dry track, it's a lot easier.
It goes back to what you said as well, Sam, about the team wanting to play ball in play for a long amount of time, because we want to use it. We want to spin. And I didn't get to say much on Nico, but I thought his ball playing today was spectacular. There's a couple of that cutout pass that he did to Sione where he just got bundled out was absolutely was perfection. Like even the spiral on the ball, it didn't deviate. It was incredible. And he was looking for those big cutout balls a lot more, which you're going to have to take those risks. If you want to win finals games, you have to take risks. Calculated, but those are the things that Nico can do that probably Trindle doesn't have in his back pocket as much. And to be fair, I don't think Munster and Jerome Hughes have those they're different type of players. Like Nico has those. That's one of his better qualities is his passing game, his pass selection. So we want to, if we can get a fast, dry track down there, I think it plays into our hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, again, just making the most of your opportunities. Like, I can already see him making line breaks. I don't think that they're going to hold us to 4 points or whatever, but it's about making sure they land in the right place and we score from there or make the most of those opportunities in those times. Because, as I said, going down to Melbourne, it's a really hard road trip. It doesn't really matter about the past anymore because it's, a new day, and that's what Fitzgibbon will tell you as well. Like, it's all about next Saturday afternoon, and we can't sugarcoat it. They're going to have to play out of their skin. They're going to all have to be 8 out of 10s, if not more, to get the job done. And that's not an impossibility. That's kind of where you want to be in finals time. So we're not asking for a lot, but dry track. I like the shout. SJD says our record against top 8 teams is the same against bottom 8 teams, 2 out of 3 for both. That's an interesting
you take that.
Stat. Thank you for that.
Just Penrith, yeah.
Dave says, big Tommy H for Prime Minister. He's gone from unheard of to a cult hero. Where do we sit with the forwards next year? That's a great question. Player depth.
Dan looks excited about this one.
No, I love this question so much.
So there's no official word on Kafusi, but we're assuming he's sticking around, right?
Yeah, he's got an option, and they haven't told him to yet, so
right.
I would say he is.
Right. And we got the big fella coming from the Warriors. And, I mean, are they our starting props, do we think, based on current form?
No, I think it's got to be Toby and Fanua Blake.
Okay.
I disagree, only because I think Toby can have more impact off the bench than Kafusi. I think there's a little more dynamic. So I would start with Kafusi and Adam Fanua Blake, and then Toby's first on. But it's much of a muchness. I just think I think Toby has a little bit more to offer in terms of actual impact, whereas Kafusi's a little more steady, and you start strong, and you start with him, make his tackles, get through his 60 meters in his first stint, and then he comes off.
I mean, the good news is they both can do it.
Yes.
Yeah, Kafusi
really
did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
So we're letting Royce Hunt go.
Yeah.
Are we seeing more time from Tuku? I think we might be, right?
No, I don't think so. Because you're going to get... Look, Hammy Newelli's just signed a massive deal, right? I was really negative on it. Nothing I've seen this year, but the fact is they signed him on a massive deal and his ceiling's right up. So I think him and either Toby or Kafusi take 2 for sure. You got Hazleton. You still got Royce. You still got Jack Williams to re-sign yet. The more that goes on, the more I think he might be going to Canberra. But I hope he sticks around. And Sifa Talakai must be in that side. So there's 5. And then if Jesse Colquhoun's fit, he's number 6 for me. Yeah. Then you can talk huge because he's too much like the others. There's no difference. You can't play him and Hazleton. It's one or the other, and Pom's a bit further ahead. Not to say, again, that's a very good problem to have because if you named him, no arguments from me. I just think, God, Fanua Blake adds so much. His minutes are just going to change the roles.
Yeah.
Players.
Yeah, I think if coach plays him the way that he's historically been played, then it completely changes the bench rotation, right? And gives you more freedom.
Well, he's pinching 20 minutes off someone else because he'll play arguably 50 or 60 every week.
Yeah. He's pinching it, but he's also freeing up the spots, right?
Sure. Big time. Keeping the others fresh because you rotate around him because there's probably almost 2 rotations before he comes off.
Yeah. So, Dan, what do you think of the role of Tuku then? Because we're all 3 of us are big fans of his. Is he just waiting in the wings kind of thing?
Yeah, I get the feel. I think he and either Hamlin Ueli or Kafusi will start for Newtown. obviously Colquhoun's got an ACL, but when he comes back, that's your starting three. And whoever's playing the best is the next man up. I think Hamanueli will play, and if he may even start because he used to start. His form's so far down.
We should give him benefit of doubt of a good off season.
Yeah,
100%. He's not played. He's not been fit all year. He's playing big minutes for Newtown. He goes up and plays 7 and makes one hit up for Cronulla, and everyone bags him. It's like, but he just banged out 60 minutes. He can do it. So I think I definitely agree with that. But like we got 4 or 5 strikes, which is why I got a bit upset with everyone going, "Oh, what are we doing letting Royce Hunt go?" The guy averages 60 meters in 20 minutes. The other wokes are all lapping him in terms of stat. I'm not having to go at Royce. I love the bloke, but you put Fanua Blake in there, and he's Hunt and Kafusi rolled into one.
Yeah,
it's just such a different kettle of fish next year.
Now, I know Ash is fresh from Brookie. He made the trek to Brookie and got to see the boys win. So, g'day, Ash. He says, Melbourne will be tough, but confident we can do it. So that is awesome, and we're glad that he's tuning in. He's a bit of an old school SharkCast dude. Although Ash does get around, it has to be said. I don't want to start rumors, but he's a guy that doesn't want his Sharks media wherever he can get it. And you know what? Bless him, because he is just like all of us. We all love our Sharks media. Dan, you got a Fins Up episode out tonight, correct? It's out already.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's already dropped. So anyone who's logged on watching, please log out and listen to Fins Up. No, I don't mean that. It's up. Terry and I are both very positive, as you'll probably say, and that getting closer to hearing Terry as a resident as Blake Brayley Island. I fear a finals win might see him move in full time.
I can see him swimming across, but he's just not quite there yet. But
there was a tweet that he made earlier that he was on a visa applying for his permanent residency. So he's close.
It's a game away.
As the mayor of Blake Island, I will look at that visa and I will study the application. Stevie says cloudy and 13 degrees for forecast, rain around, so might not be so dry, but at least it'll be, daytime, afternoon, and the chance of some sunshine maybe. So we'll see how that pans out, whether it can obviously change, but appreciate that. This is a question specifically for Dan. We're not allowed to answer this one. Where do you see Stone Street and Cade Dykes in 25? Anyone gets injured, or who do you move on? So we've already sort of answered the Cade one, but you're starting Stone Street, Dan. So I might actually flip it and go, Josh, where do you see Stone Street for the moment?
I've definitely come around on Stone Street. I still think he bides his time for me and plays through injury, which we've seen this year. He will get plenty of games, which is, I think it's the same for Tuku. I think he'll play plenty of games, but I think I've still got enough faith in Sione, maybe bias and a bit of, I've got a lot of love for the guy. So Stone Street's still 22, same as Tuku's 22. These guys are going to get their chance and they're going to play for a long time for the Sharks. Obviously, the caveat to that is losing them. So I still have in the back of my mind worried long term that Ronnie's not going to be here forever, and I'd hate to lose Sione trying to keep all 3 of them if we know that Ronaldo's going to leave. I know that's a lot of ifs and buts, but that's in the back of my mind, and it always is. I'd hate to lose Sione, then lose Ronaldo. So I think I've still got Sione in my side round 1 with Ronaldo next year.
Let's sidestep the question for a second. When it comes to contract time for Ronaldo, are we matching what he wants? Are we going over? Are we going to play ball? Obviously, we're going to play ball. We love the guy. How far would you go to keep, dare I say, a winger?
Is the money the problem, though, or is it where he wants to be? Because I know his family's all in Queensland. I think that's the big thing for him. Obviously, if we threw him ridiculous money, I think he'd stay. I just think that family pull and wanting to be back there may be too much.
I got the vibe it was the opposite. I thought it was a cash thing.
Okay.
Like, Dan, would you go nuts with the cash, or?
Look, Newcastle have pretty much come out and said we need a winger. I'd be telling Sione, or you get on the bus, mate. There is no world in which we can risk losing Sam Stone Street. This kid is special.
I want to keep him.
I mean, Katoa can hold a spot through finals. I'm not going to begrudge him that. But round 1 next year, if Katoa's there and Stone Street isn't, there needs to be an investigation, because this kid is a bona fide freak. There is look, Ronaldo. Yeah, I would. Ronaldo and Stone Street are a premiership win combination. I think that goes potty on the 2016 win combo we had. With the greatest respect to young Val and Fecky, I think Stone Street and Ronaldo, whooshka. Look, you obviously you don't want to lose Katoa, but this bloke's on a fair clip, and coming through there's a couple of kids that are scary good. Look, I know Christian Dixon's off contract. I would get that kid on a development deal ASAP before he signs with South. That would be the first thing I do tomorrow morning. He was so good in Flag on the weekend and New South Wales Cup. And Stone Street and Ronaldo, you too. And if there's an injury, Chris Vela can play a bit of wing. Well,
I guess the point you're getting to, Dan, is that the three wingers we're talking about specifically, in probably 2 years' time, won't fit in the same club. Stone Street, Ronaldo, and Qatar.
Yeah.
If Stone Street keeps trending the way he is, he's a local junior. You could probably get him for a little bit less, dare I say. Then it's hypothetically becoming a thing between Katoa and Ronaldo. I mean, try-scoring feats, they're neck and neck. It's unbelievable. I mean, they both have a different set of skills. One bust tackles like going out of fashion. The other one's good at attacking the ball in the air. They both are pretty good with their meters. Ronaldo's slightly more elite, I think, just because of the way he plays the game, as general a statement as that is. But Katoa's in the argument. I think, yeah, I've just come to the conclusion that all three probably won't be in the same club in 2 or 3 years' time.
If you're ranking them, it's Stone Street, Ronaldo, Katoa.
Mm-hmm. I think Ronaldo gives you more special plays and is a better player. I think Sione's the better winger. Does that make sense? Like, I think Sione is a more all-rounded, better winger in terms of he gives you meters, gives you tackle busts. He's it's a top 5 finisher. He's got a bad read in him. Who doesn't? I mean, we've seen Ronaldo concede 3 to Kyle Felt. You know, he's part of the best defensive edge in the competition. I still think even amongst Sharks fans in the NRL, he's very underrated. And I think what he gives you in pros is so much more than he gives you in the negatives.
Yeah, no denying that, Josh. I think that I'm thinking out of those three guys, if Stone Street was to sort of go to where we think he is, and it's an if, like, who knows what's going to happen, but it's an if. I think the more replaceable one out of those three, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and Kieran won't talk to me tomorrow morning, but out of the three you could replace, I feel like it's Sione.
It probably
is. He's like, for me, he's one of the best players every week.
That's not a crack. You've got 3 superstar wingers. You just got one that's a foot taller and a yard faster than both at 21 or 22.
Yeah.
That says to me, come on. Plus, I mean, that haircut, let's be honest. There isn't a toddler in Cronulla that doesn't have a Sam Stone Street this weekend.
Yeah, the haircut's another subject.
I do think that I think Ronaldo, if he was going to go, would be pretty transparent and be pretty clear about it. If he's like, look, the money's not going to be enough or I want to go home, I think he wouldn't. I don't think he'd drag it along to the point where if Sione was going to be the guy that missed out, he would allow that to happen. I think he'd say, look, if I'm going to go, like, you keep Sione.
Yeah, sure.
I still think that I think a win combination of Stone Street and Sione is still fantastic. And we can't lose as Sharks. We don't lose out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting with Ronaldo. And like off the field, he's, everyone knows he's not the guy that he's on the field. He's just this really warm-hearted, generous dude. I don't think he's going to play games, Josh. I just think that he's a guy out of those three. He's a guy who could play the market and probably get closer to what he wants. I'm not suggesting he won't get what he wants at Cronulla, but like if Lomax is out there doing stuff and making deals in his own way, Ronaldo's on par with that.
Absolutely.
So, Dave says Ronnie did take a pay cut last contract and probably deserves a pay rise within reason. Absolutely, like if he's going to get a new deal, there'll be a pay rise involved. Absolutely. He's not going to stay for less, I don't think. So interesting. I mean, we're a little bit off what's going to happen there, but we'll see that. Paul says height and pure speed. Yeah.
You can't cheat either. He's just I know he's raw, and I know he had a bad defensive game the other night, but he scored tries that we haven't seen the other blokes score in 7 first grade games. And I know I'm getting excited based on potential, but a guy in his mid-20s, I love Katoa, but Stone Street is just going to go whooshka. And if we were to lose him, I would burn the club down. You can put that there.
You know what I think, and I don't want to keep going on this for too much longer or anything, but I think for me now, Sione's better for where the club's at in terms of pushing for the premiership in his what he offers us now, which is hardened NRL player. And we're in the window now, and I think that Stone Street can come into that later with a little more experience of, dribs and drabs throughout the next year or what have you. Just right now, Sione's my guy in terms, what we want to win a comp in the next 2 or 3 years, and I think he gives us more of that now. Even though Stone Street has stuff he doesn't, Sione has stuff that Stone Street doesn't. So I guess it depends on what you want from your winger.
Yeah, I think I sit with the coach and what Josh is saying, and it's different to what Dan says, but I think, if all three are available this week, I'm picking the guys that have done it for the past 3 years or more, because they have that experience. They're in the window. The window's open. Now, it doesn't mean Stone Street couldn't jump in and win a comp. He might very well win the comp for us with a try. Yeah. But it's a lot to put on a guy at this point of the season. For example, if we were talking about this week coming, just for whatever reason, just to be topical, you'd still take Katoa. I would still take Katoa and Ronaldo because it's so successful. It's not often, like, I know the other week he had a bad read, and today Ronnie got caught out. He was out-leapt. But we're usually singing these guys' praises. And it's only a positive that we're talking about another guy who could potentially come in and, it's really good junior management, and it's good rostering, and it's all positive. That's the positive about it. It's all good. Dan, this one's for you because you'll be able to answer this easily. Does the CWSC exist anymore?
Not officially. There's a couple of them in the corner bay. There's still a Facebook, but no.
Okay, so we'll see what happens there in the future. We love the idea of that group, and they got a lot of great history. So thank you, Ash. Appreciate you. On today's game, guys, did you see any negatives in there? I honestly didn't. I don't want to be like got my my shark glasses on, but I didn't see any negatives in there. Did you guys see any negatives in there?
I didn't. In terms of just they scored two tries when the game was in the balance, and then they scored that one at the end that meant nothing to me. I think we dominated the game, and then when we put the Q in the rack, it was all irrelevant from that point on. 4 or 5 tries in a row to us, dominated, making line breaks at will. Really good defense, in terms of missed tackle stats and what have you. I think, and we got hammered in the penalties too. There was 8-3 yet again, and it was irrelevant in terms of how we played, but we owned it, and I think that's what we're gonna have to do if we're gonna probably cop a bad penalty count again against Melbourne. We'll have to overcome that.
What about you, Dan? Did you see anything you didn't like?
Conceding 2 penalties with the ball is probably the only one I can say that's
not. So remind me what was the second one other than the obstruction? What was the other one?
Katoa hitting the ground and passing off the ground.
Yeah, that was bad.
We did concede off both, so that if he twisted my arm, it does, like Josh said, it doesn't matter in hindsight. But those
is that always a penalty? Sometimes they just call that back, right? That's a bit of an iffy one. I don't get that.
It's because his ball carrying arm hit the ground, so it's dead.
Right.
If you're carrying a player back and the referee yells held and he passes the ball, because of the momentum, it's a bit different. But it led to the law. I thought he got it right. I actually thought the refereeing today was exceptional. I don't say that very often. So no points there. But that's probably the only negative, really, because as Josh said, the last 10 minutes, who cares?
Now, was it Adam G who was the referee?
I believe it was, yeah. Who did the grand final? He's got to get the grand
final, yeah.
He's good. I like the way he speaks to the players. He said it to Nico. He said, "You're not the captain. Don't come at me." It's great point.
I was sure Ramin was going to the bin, and the way he said, I know there's mitigating factors.
Yeah.
His
Yeah, it's
form
really
was
good. It's
best.
really good.
Yeah.
If we have to go to the judiciary, you play that tape.
And it's great that the bunker, who we don't often praise as well, obviously gave him that information that came directly from them.
Yep.
And that's a great decision. Now let's talk about that. Do we think there's an issue there? Because he was still
There
on
can't
report.
be. It was face on chest. Like I get it was contact and like I still don't think it probably
Like, is
should
there
have been a penalty.
anything? Because he's got a bad rep.
No, because I think they'll take the mitigating factors into consideration. He was slipping, being tackled by someone else. It was faced on chest, maybe a bit of the right side of his body that maybe was arm or elbow or shoulder. I would like to think it'd be like a maybe $3,000 fine. If he's injured and he can't play, take it if they've got it. But
So,
yeah.
What was the injury? It was the foot or something? The ankle?
I believe they taped it, which says to me that if it was next week, he probably plays on. But yeah, it looked like it was taped, and then they just took him off because there was no point. But we don't know. I haven't seen or heard anything. I don't know if you have, Dan.
No Ramian's a massive pickle. Like it's
a big problem.
It's no Ramian. It's also, well, who should play in the centers? And we know who's going to play in the centers. So
no Ramian's horrible. Look what
yeah.
happened last week. If Ramian plays against the Warriors, we flog him. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to even think about it. I don't think he gets to spend time with Josh. I think he gets a fine because they have to fine everything these days. And he didn't look upset. You usually know when a player knows they're hurt, they look upset. And he was laughing and sort of carrying on.
It's the fact they taped it that says to me that they were trying to get him through it. I don't know how long it was taped for. If they taped they pulled him straight off. I have to look at it again. Maybe the NRL physio. I'm just looking through if there's anything, but I'm hopeful that he should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to miss tall time, we don't want to have too much disruptions. We don't want to miss Jesse, that's for sure. Do you think, let's play hypotheticals just because we can, do you think they throw Atkinson in there like the other week?
They have to.
And we're cool with that? We're okay with that?
No, but we're okay with it. It should have been Chris Whaler the other week. Just saying.
Yeah, he's close. He's super close. But I don't think they'll throw him into a final.
Not now. No chance.
And nor should they, really.
I think the reason they played Atco there was because they wanted to see how he went. I think it was purely that was like, okay, we've seen him play almost every other position for us this year. Just see if it had to happen. That's why he played there last week and now he was benched this week. I think it's been very smart coaching and the decisions they've been making is like, okay, let's see what he's got. Now he's back on the bench. If there's no injuries, how do we play him? If there are injuries, he just takes that spot. So I think it's really clever how they've been going about it.
And he's the sort of guy that sorry, Dan, he's the sort of guy that he wouldn't be psychologically affected if Fitzy went, you didn't make it, you're going to play for the Jets. Like, he's the sort of guy that'll just bounce from to and from. But I love the fact that they're keeping him in the rotation from both a athletic point of view, but also just psychologically, just saying, hey,
you're still there.
We kind of know how good you are. What were you going to say, Dan?
I think, just quickly, I think Atkinson will be 18th man if he's not in the 17 because he's the perfect 18th man.
Sure.
A couple of weeks ago, I don't know why this hasn't been thrown up, but Ronaldo won a comp for the Jets at the centres, right?
Yes.
We got a pretty handy winger there who's demanding. I mean,
yes.
I wouldn't be doing it this weekend because it's Melbourne, but 6 weeks back, Ronaldo and centre, Stone Street on the wing, and that's easy fix.
I got to say, Dan, from what I've seen him play in the centres, whether it's moments or games, it's not for me.
He did headbutt that guy, to be fair.
Specifically defensively, but even just in attack, I think it's just not his strength. Like, maybe 4 years ago, if you'd stuck with it, but I just think we've come too far. I'm not ruling it out, but I just think that it's not. I wouldn't be going that way.
He got one game, right?
It won't happen.
He played the one game, I think, as center, like round 1 2 years ago or something. I think he started there.
But we've seen him sort of creep in there just for trick plays or injuries during games.
Defense.
Yeah, it's not
It's
not
not his
beautiful.
go.
Yeah. And that's fine because he's an elite winger, so that's not a problem.
I'm more just taking the mick. Chris Vaiella was the go, but it has to be Dan Atkinson. As long as it's not Talakai, I'll sleep well.
Yeah. I think that obviously Atkinson is the preferred choice over him. Serious question, because he's a serious part of our squad. Do you consider Harodi or not?
Maybe for wing.
I mean, yeah, you should, but I don't think he's right because he would have played for Newtown if he was.
Oh, okay. He's had some
But yeah,
injuries this year.
100%.
Okay.
At centre?
Well, yeah, maybe.
I would prefer that over the other two because it's what he's done in the past. Right. But you can't convince me it's anyone but Atkinson.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Good shout.
Now, Dan and I spoke a bit about NRLW to begin with, and there's not a lot to talk about. Is the spoiler? Very disappointing game. I'm sure the club itself are disappointed with how it went down. The team, the players, and I think the bounce back will be there. But yeah, completely dominated from start to finish by the Roosters, and there were not a lot of positives in that game. They are suffering some injuries. There is a bit of a depth problem, so we need to give them that shout. But also, they are stats-wise and ladder point of view the best team in the comp, and to dish out that, just not good enough. So, is it the Broncos next week, Dan?
Broncos, yeah. A loss actually could put us third.
Wow.
Because of the shellacking we took today.
That's crazy.
A win all but guarantees us some minor premierships. We got the Tigers in the last round. You don't want to start talking beating the Tigers, but I mean, you should beat the Tigers. So yeah, this is honestly the biggest game in the history of the club coming up this weekend against the Broncos.
Now, do we have any? So flag is at Penrith. Do we have days, times? Probably not yet.
Yeah, it's 3:00 on Sunday afternoon at Leichhardt against Penrith, and then Newtown play at 5:00 directly after them.
Gotcha. Okay, beautiful. That's awesome.
Worked out well.
Okay. All right. Well, it's another big week for us. Obviously, the NRL is going to headline that fact, but 4 big games coming up for the 4 different grades. We might get out of here because 1, maybe 2 of us need to get up in a couple of hours to watch some American football. I don't know if the third one will. He might be watching.
There's no soccer this weekend, so I can have a nice sleep.
Okay, there you go. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. A lot of fun. Andrew says, just quickly, thanks for doing live cast, guys. Love the podcast. If we win, allows me to take full value from a victory. Well, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger and appreciate your kind thoughts. Glad we snuck you on there at the end. We'll have lots of more pods during the week from SharkCast. I know Dan and Terry will be doing a bunch more as well. And it's a big week. It's a really big week. So enjoy it. Start getting nervous, but keep it a good nervous. You don't want to make it a bad nervous because that's not good for you. And get in touch with us, sharkcastpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials. You can DM us and we'll get to your letters during one of the more regular episodes. Go seek out Dan's new episode from Fins Up. And Josh, we will talk to you shortly, I'm sure, on an episode. Have a great week, boys. Everyone listening, have a great time. One last shout out from Lucian, his podcast, which is the Post Credits Show, which is a pop culture entertainment podcast. It's really, really good. They said love the work. Well, we appreciate you, and we might even talk to you during the week, my friend, about being a Melbourne tragic. I'm so happy for the Melbourne guys and girls. Like, they get one game a year maybe, and sometimes it doesn't go that well. Like, this year was a bit of a, not a miracle, but it was good fun, and we're hoping for another one. So I know they're already all lined up for their tickets, and they're all psyched. So if you're going to Melbourne, reach out to those guys, reach out to us, and we'll get in touch with them. There's a whole Melbourne crew, and they're awesome, and they would love to have more of you involved. So do that, and we'll put you in touch with them. But until then, we will talk to you all soon. Bit of a weird broadcast. If you saw the start, Dan couldn't work the Instagram, but we'll do that next time maybe. Up. Let's enjoy it. Great win for the Sharks. Thanks so much, everyone. I'm going to play the song on the podcast. I'm not going to play it on this because I haven't got it prepared. End stream, everybody. Good night.